You're live. Yep.
Okay, we're working. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Approval of agenda and order of business. Here's the cost. We're considering moving 11.1 to the end of the agenda, and then we'll determine at that point, depending on the time of day.
Very good.
And then we're adding 11.7. I think everybody has that in front of them, is the appointment of the returning officer. And that's it for me. Does anybody else have anything they're taking off, Ed, doing whatever?
Adding,
Adding,
under new business, oat and a boat in my district.
oat and a vote.
Thank you.
I don't have that 11.7.
11.7,
So we have that.
you have it now.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Seconder? Second discussion, all those in favor? Oh, motion's carried. Public input, I'm unaware of it. No. Okay. Minutes of the previous meetings should be simple, wonderful.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. 5.1, proclamations, email from Fibromyalgia Association Canada requesting the municipal light up the building and awareness of fibromyalgia dusk on May the 12th to dawn on May the 13th. Anybody have a problem with that?
I'll vote for it.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. 5.2, letter from Epilepsy Association Maritimes requesting council support of proclamation of proclaiming Purple Day, recognition of reducing the stigma of epilepsy.
Tina, that's yours, purple.
You move that?
Oh, it is perfect.
It is purple. Yeah, I'll move that. Sorry.
Seconder,
I'll second.
discussion,
I thought fibromyalgia was purple.
It is, both purple.
Everything's purple.
everything's perfect. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Just paint the building purple as we go. Committee of the whole. Yeah, that's all moving. Variety of motions there. Does anybody want anything separated from the block? I didn't hear anything. Somebody want to move, we approve the recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Oh, motion's carried. Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. Councilor Thomas or Rena, either one of you want to speak to that?
Go ahead. I spoke on it last time.
I'll defer to Councilor Reno. I think we discussed last week, correct? I
Yeah.
said I would put him as the lead.
There's nothing really to say that I've already said. Just that we should be having more frequent check-ins. We're good at keeping on track. The last thing we want to do is off course. And have a bit of surprise and that make everybody upset. Other than that,
There's motions.
Yeah, do we want to approve the motions or not?
well, we can.
Will somebody move it? So moved. Seconder?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. I would start.
Thank you, Katarina, for the details report.
Yeah. Nominating committee, Councilor Reno.
Now, here's a good one. Now, this is a turning point for us, winning our arts and culture strategy oversight committee. We have a slate of candidates in front of you. And I'd move the nomination of those candidates.
Seconder?
Can you read them out?
I gotta read all the people?
Sure.
Why-
Put their name on the
why-
record
you
one.
can't read?
No, I think people, read them out.
Well, I would have
Doesn't seem to
Kevin.
be working up there.
Kenneth McGuinn, Terry Whetstone, Kate Brown, Cynthia Myers, Beverly McGinnis, Shauna Bask, Luann, Brad Chem, Susan Crocker, and Andrew Chandler. Those are the candidates that have been selected. We had 11, I think, that applied, and we had, unfortunately, to cut a couple, but it's nice that sometimes in some of our communities, we fail to attract people that are interested, and there was no problem in this case. So, you have your slate.
So moved.
Are you moving?
Did you move it?
Yes, you did.
I'll second it.
Looking for a seconder.
Discussion? Discussion?
Discussion? Yeah.
Thank you. So in terms of, when I remember back in terms of the notes that would have come out around the forming of this committee, we were looking, the hope was to have representation from around the entire municipality and a variety of backgrounds and interests, because again, arts and culture is just a wonderfully variety of talent and skill set and interest, as well as representation from other groups and so on. So is that, Councillor Bino, is that reflective in the group that we have now on the committee?
Yeah, well, as much as we could. I mean, we had, it was certainly from one jurisdiction, the applicants, and we, like I said, we only had to cut two. One wasn't a resident. She worked in the area, in the arts field, but
Sure.
the only linkage to her was her employment. So if that was ever to change, then there would be no linkage to our municipality.
Sure.
So that was an obvious one for the nomination committee, and the other one that just, although it was a good interest, that gentleman didn't have as strong as arts background as the other applicants. So
Right.
so
Yes.
not just geography, but we were
Sure, absolutely.
looked at, obviously, in how rich and diverse the arts background.
We can't just look at districts for sure, but I know that was the hope. So I
Yeah.
didn't know how
We did our
reflective,
best.
how
Yeah,
reflective that
really.
was.
There were some districts that didn't know how to send anybody.
Sure, yeah, no,
No applicants to
Yeah.
choose from.
sure.
Pretty lucky to have the quality that we have.
I think there's no problem with quality.
Not questioning any of those individuals on the list. I'm just questioning the makeup of the entirety of it. So,
That's
because I know
good.
that was the
Yeah.
hope.
We got everything from fine art, performing arts, it's all in there. Awesome. Good variety.
Perfect.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, motion carried. Public presentations, I'm unaware of it. 8.1, amendment, council and committee procedural policy, notice of intention to amend the policy to change the term of deputy warden to 4 one-year terms.
So this was a direction and motion that was given to council, given to staff by council at the December 1st, 2022 meeting. And at that meeting, council discussed history and succession planning for the deputy warden position. And so it was agreed to direct staff to prepare amendments to the policy. And so these are the amendments, and it's one short amendment to 5.9, and it's highlighted in the attached policy. And so it's a request to give notice and intention.
So let's, just to be clear, so the deputy warden would be a one-year term. So that would give 4 people the opportunity during the council term to serve as deputy warden.
It's a one-year term with no more than 2 terms unless nobody else is nominated or runs. So
So if 2 were nominated, would the other person just automatically get it because the other person served 1 term, or is there
So,
a
no,
vote for that?
so they're
They
allowed to
can
serve
run-
2
They
terms.
can run twice.
They can run
Okay,
twice.
no, just clarification.
And then if they've run twice and they were to run a 3rd time and there was 2 people nominated, they wouldn't be eligible for the nomination.
Okay, that's fine.
What we asked for, so somebody's prepared to move to give first notice?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. 8.2, new radio communications facility proposal.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
So, I've prepared a report and draft DA or draft policy for radio communication facility accommodations. We discussed this back in December as well, to move to a policy approach separate from the planning policies, and also to move on from the consultant that we have as a partner for these consultations. So I've drafted a policy, and it includes submission requirements, consultation process, designing citing preferences, and final determination. So in my report, I did add a section in the discussion about kind of how we came to some of the setback distances and things like that. I did present some other options for council, so we do have an opportunity to discuss those now if you wanted to. And there's also a few other matters related to this, so rescinding the motion that approved the partnership with the consultant that we have an agreement with right now. I believe it's just a rescinding of the motion. So if council adopts or gives notice of intent to adopt this policy next council meeting, I think the first action would be to rescind that motion.
Using those people first. Yeah.
And then we also have minor amendments to the MPS and the land use bylaw that would follow adoption of the policy as well. And then there's proposal to change the fees as well. So that would go through, there's a process in motion for amending the fee policy.
People with questions, comments? What do you want to do? Approve the recommendation?
I'll recommend that we approve option 1 to rescind the motion regarding using SINs 215-420 and to adopt first reading of the new policy.
Oh, we need 2/3 vote to rescind. Yeah.
You want to do it separately?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
just in case, yeah.
I'll go back and I'll make the motion to rescind the motion 215-420, which is regarding this using SINs for our consultant for radio communications.
Seconder?
Twins.
Seconder? Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Yeah, it passed.
The outstanding.
Second motion?
And then I'll move that we approve, send, the new policy for radio communications.
Seconder? Seconder. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you.
I'll be back.
Sound like I was watching it.
Yes, you should say that.
Okay, 9.1, infrastructure and operation, provincial asset transfer, Middle River Road structure.
Morning, Council.
Good morning.
Morning.
So today we have a request for decision. In our quarterly meeting with the province and the area manager in January, he asked if we were interested in the walking bridge on Middle River Road that was installed after the floods.
Yeah.
and the possibility of a emergency egress onto the 103. It's a closed road, so they would be granting us permission to have that egress if we needed to do an emergency evacuation.
We had to put up a gate or whatever.
We'll put up a gate. So staff has reviewed the walking bridge, and there's no AT trails or anything leading to this bridge, and the new pedestrian or new vehicle bridge is wide enough for pedestrians, so we feel that operationally it would just be added stress on our unit, and it's not needed. We did ask if we could move it somewhere else, and that was squashed, so
So we don't need it.
we don't need it. And we are in favor, Remo and the fire department are in favor of installing this gate for future egress. It will not be used for residents daily. It will be closed off, gated, and if it is abused, we'll probably have to take it out.
Yeah.
And then they'll just reinstate it again like they did this time after those months.
Just a question, will the gate be locked or unlocked?
It'll be locked.
Okay, because I noticed right
We'll
away,
only open it if there's an emergency.
okay, because I noticed right away that the Department of Transportation did not plow that area. Once the bridge was fixed, that was it.
That was
They
it.
stopped
They
plowing
stopped,
that access.
We probably give keys to the fire service.
Keys, the fire service will
So
get
that they-
keys and
They can access
so they can do it. So it would be emergency situations, not just
just because.
fire on that end or anything. It'll just be, there's a forest fire or flood and they need to evacuate.
So the fire department would have keys, the residents would not have.
No,
So, does anybody have any issues with that?
I just have a question. I mean, you could have an emergency where a resident may have to get out before the fire department got there. How are they gonna do it? If they don't have keys?
The main road is still, the bridge is back in, so they can still get out to the number 3.
So what's this doing if they can still get out to the number 3?
Let's say there's a fire in the middle
In the middle.
and then you can't get it.
Yeah.
This is what that's.
So if they can't get out and they don't have a key,
Well, if we give them all a key, they'll use it all the time.
you think?
Yeah.
Is it something that you could break down in an emergency? Break through?
Well, I think if it was that much of an emergency, you would.
Well, that's what
We
it-
would send someone.
That's what it's for. It's for an emergency.
Yeah, but you would have,
We
you would.
would determine.
You would want to take the vehicle out of there.
If you take the Hammond's Plains situation, they didn't have time to sort of find the fire department, get a key and get a gate. They had one, right? An emergency means an emergency. We got to get out now.
Oh, it's not gonna lock off.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, is it's got to be somehow a little brute force.
Yeah, first one, speak to it. All I was gonna say is that, the ones that HR has been putting in, that they're all locked, so that is, it is.
Yeah, you can't have a lock
on it, with keys with the proper authorities. and what have you.
And the response time by the fire department would be within minutes. Basically. The evacuation would have to be controlled.
I don't see any other way to do it. You can't give everybody a key or else it'll just be abused. Yeah. And if you just leave it open, they'll abuse it, so. They weren't allowed to use it before.
I'll make a motion to approve option 3.
Option 3 is.
Seconder,
second.
discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nine point two, infrastructure operations, portable water supply, next steps.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We've been looking at a few options in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
One that we looked at was, of course, the well program in the Middle River. Look if there's some potential there. We're gonna do 3 wells. We did 2, and it didn't bother pursuing because the yields were very low. Wasn't the same gravel that we hoped were there. Yeah. And previously under another report, we looked at Spectacle Lake. It could probably sustain 2,000 people, but there's some treatment concerns, so we just had it on the back burner for now. And we probably consider not using that as a source, but we found this other report that looks like there may be something in the Robinson's Corner area. Just so there could be a backup supply in the future.
What location?
Generally right at the intersection there, you know, within 300 feet. Yeah. And there's, and I did hear through the grapevine that there's some property in Hannon Hill that hit, you know, 30 imperial gallons a minute. It's late, which is really high for that. And they found another one that was 40 in the same area, so they're getting that in slate. And if there is sand and gravel in that corner, it's worth looking at. And then we have if everything did work out great, we do have property north of that we could set up some type of facility. It's probably worth looking at, waiting for a refined estimate. So we're thinking 130,000 right now if we're doing 4 wells. Probably a good PCAP project, but that's something we could bring back in for budget deliberations. And then also a quick update on the community wells there. We sent it out to a number of communities and we're going through the testing now. We're trying to go 4 or 5 and then we'll have good information on what the needs are. Because we talked before, like if they're willing to do this, what would they like for assistance with? So we have to hope to have something back soon on that.
Well, progress.
Thank you. Just as a question, Fred, when you get a chance, I know that, well, it's actually on the screen, under the current, last paragraph, current situation, staff reached out to 27 organizations, the attached list. If you might send that to us when you get a chance, it just wasn't included in this.
It's in.
Oh, is it the list? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you know what? I had opened my OneDrive earlier and it wasn't there, so yes, I need to update. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
It's not in mine.
Response. Some, a lot of them didn't respond at all, but.
That's right. Some just didn't have the infrastructure, right? They just have a little bit of wells for their own
Yeah, no.
activities, so that's fine.
so yeah, I need to go back into the most up-to-date OneDrive because I don't have it on my
Sure.
PDF, so I can do that.
Yeah.
So are we looking for any particular direction or action?
Just include it in a capital program deliberations, right?
To consider it.
Yeah. And then once we have more information from the community wells, we'll have our estimates on that as well. It's more of an update and just.
Yes. Yeah, we were wondering where we were with it all. and
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah. And finding that report was a bit of a surprise.
Andre.
This is a strange report. There's a lot in this.
Yeah.
So,
Corn one.
I want to like try to unpack this, maybe for my benefit and the benefit of the council. So first, let's talk about the testing we did at the, I believe it was at the Hard Rock. So we drilled there hoping that we might find a suitable water supply, because that's actually an area of our municipality that's actually known for good water quality, not so much for drilled wells, but certainly it's actually probably the best land in our municipality.
Yeah, that's what we thought.
Yeah. It didn't turn out there was enough yield.
Maybe we hit 2 bad spots, but the odds.
Yeah. So the ask in this report, one of the one recommendation is that we proceed and we do some other exploratory groundwater testing based on some old reports that we have. And I think makes sense to me. We need to continue the search until we find something suitable. But separate from that, then this report touches on Spectacle Lake. Yeah. It says here that a reviewing of the older engineering reports shows that that lake has a potential for 2,000 people, and in that watershed is also included Stanford Lake, which is basically filled with cadmium and arsenic and all
Yeah,
kinds
the
of awful
sediment is
stuff.
very high, yeah, so
That would have to be all
that good.
Yeah. So 2,000 people, it would cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to build a water treatment facility to deal with that surface water.
Yeah.
And, just thinking aloud here, like, I don't think that it would ever make sense to invest that kind of money in water treatment on a water supply that had such a limited potential capacity.
It'd be tough, yeah.
So like that drives a whole line of conversation around land use here, because we're like protecting like a massive swath of our land for our water supply. We've talked about this many times on council here.
We probably never will.
Like, I'd like to see a recommendation here to like take action and like get rid of this, because like we need Jamie Rayfuse to come in here and tell us again how he just wants to build some houses, but he can't put a road in. Like, it's important, it's relevant to this report here that why are we protecting this land? Like,
Low potential, but if we did find something good there, maybe it's a secondary supply. Hard to say. It doesn't look great right now.
yeah,
Once we exhaust Robinson's Corner, then there may be recommendations after that to reconsider.
I don't know when we're ever gonna pull the trigger on it and get rid of it.
Gareth, you had something you wanted to add?
Potentially, so as part of the HAF funding that's been approved, one of those projects that was identified was to look at the peripheral, the area just outside of the village boundary. And that's slated to begin this year with a consultant. So just thinking that potentially this could be incorporated into that. That's certainly part of that peripheral area, that protected watershed zone that we're talking about. So, but certainly as part of that work too, it'd be helpful if there was a final decision that no, this is not going to be. The consultant would need that just in the same way we would in order to rezone it.
The only thing that created this is some idea back in the 80s that a planner had that this should be maybe something we should look at for our water. And, every other report since that time has said that it's probably not a good idea. And I just don't understand why we're zoned off so much of our land that we can't do anything with.
I think what you see in the report here is that the recommendation, the last line of that paragraph on the surface water supply with respect to the lake is that it uses a surface water source at this time is not recommended. So that would, if council agrees with that and that we take that off the table, we can bring back a report on the land use piece of it. But we didn't want to put it all in one report. So if
It's starting to
council,
sound to me
it
like
does
you're-
sound like that right now, it does not make sense to do that as a surface, to use the surface water. The costs to do it are high. The yield isn't going to, it's only going to service 2,000 people, which isn't going to be enough to meet the demands of current and future growth. So it does not seem like a feasible source at this time.
No, just, I wish that we would move on.
Well, let's do
Jimmy's been
that.
trying to build a house for 3 years, he can't.
Okay, let's get a staff report on
On land use.
land use policy associated with that.
Last thing in this report was they sort of jumped on just a one paragraph on the community well program, which is in some way related, but mostly unrelated to our water test. And what exactly did we send out to the you listed, you didn't have the attachment with the groups you contact?
Yeah, for years.
Oh,
That's what I said.
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
So you gotta scroll right down.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's way down.
all right,
There's one more.
yes.
yeah, all right.
It's actually
Okay, good.
the first attachment.
Yeah, so, no, I was just curious, like, are we waiting for a proposal back from them on how to do that?
That's first, and let them know where they're at. Do that.
Okay.
Deep Cove likely will help out. Maybe not be able to get something planned, right? They don't know exactly what their yield is. There's one at East Chester as well. Get that tested. They already do their own testing. We're gonna do the metals and the full scans. They know.
Okay.
That's New Ross one.
Yeah, I mean, some groups, I'm not sure if they understood, like, if we were willing to invest, like, let's say, take East Chester Rec Association, for example, they've battled with water quality issues, as a community center that sits idle a lot of the time, and they've had water quality issues, but, with investment, if we were to say, okay, like, we'll invest, we'll give you whatever, $15,000 to upgrade your water supply and put all of the treatment things on there that you need, but we need to build an outside tap and make it accessible to everybody.
Yeah, I think anyone would need an outside tap with a valve on the inside so the community association could shut it off if necessary.
But it just wasn't clear if we made that, if we offered that, or we're just.
Yeah, that's part of it, to see what you would need in order to feel comfortable with letting us in.
I think that's why you're doing the testing, is to determine what,
Right off the bat.
what the
it's
quality
right
is right now, what we would need to do for treatment options, so that we can come back to council and say,
These
here's
are
the ones that
that
were
make
agreed,
sense.
here's the results.
Yeah.
Here's the one, this is what we need to do for investment.
Yeah, to me, I see this as a way of providing like a revenue stream to groups that are willing to undertake this. It's not a lot, but it could be a few $1,000s a year to maintain this supply, which is valuable, and then it's something that can count on once it's running, which is, so hopefully we'll get enough groups around that are interested and can continue.
Spread out geographically well.
So,
We bring forward agreement to council for approval, and we probably do all the necessary testing and monitoring and that.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, that was sort of where I was going. I was looking at the list here and I see discussing 90%. There was no response.
Yeah.
I think we need to go back to them. I think to me, because I've been on this for years, I think this is the most cost effective, the smartest way to have, if we can do it, is 100%. If you offer the fire departments or whoever, because I know they have to have the water tested every couple of months. We could say, look, we'll take care of that. You need this. I just think that's the way to go. Instead of investing in some other, this is an investment to our areas, and I mean, I look at Western Shore and said maybe, and I know they said maybe probably because, what are you gonna offer so that we can do this?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to be. So do you think you might reach out to them again
Oh, yeah, we'll take it
with
first,
something that's, that we can actually get down to brass tacks and say, okay, this is what you need, this is what we do.
Yeah.
I think that's the direction we should be headed. Instead of wasting time on reports.
Sure.
Like, yeah, that's.
Yeah, we have budget set aside as part of the water program to also do more exploratory and set people up.
And do we have a timeline on when we would have the testing results?
I hope to have it done this month.
Okay, that's just, okay. Floyd?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there like an offer sheet we send out to people, to these organizations?
No, yeah, the first one is letting us do the testing so they know where it's at, because they may
Some might
need
not
few
work, even
parameters.
if they're willing.
Yeah,
Well,
we
I know
need to
that.
have a treatment system, and maybe they're up for that or not, or
I just wondered if there's some sort of offer that they know there's a request and there's an option. And another thing, on this list, I see there's, it's a limited list for the communities. I know there's other places in our community that may do this. And they offer, what would I pick to them if they're cancer, or say, would you be interested in contacting themselves? Because there's other organizations here that I see that aren't here in my community, probably never get to do it.
I'd like to see what Chester Municipal Heritage said out here.
Well,
Could be a revenue line for them.
that could be.
But we only need like one.
Well,
You
I
don't
know.
need,
But there's none in my community here listed
yeah.
that said that even replied. I know there's other ones that may reply. That's my question.
Well, if
the
you
more the
tread
better if you
that,
want
you
to.
tread that list, you can contact.
it's easy.
Tina.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was just going to say, well, actually, I was going to first, what I would say, and then I'll respond to that. Similar to Abdullah, it's around safe community drinking source. It's about food, it relates to food security, and we're all aware of that. Safe drinking water is nothing more important than that. So when I look at the list and I think of my municipality, I would love to see this in each of those areas just because of the community and the need and safe drinking, again, for food security and the safety, of course. So I think we need to do that, absolutely. But in terms of Floyd's comments, after we had the workshop, those two sessions that day, and we chatted about the community well program, I actually saw Fred and asked him if the Family Resource Center, for example, is one facility was on the list, because I didn't know the list. It wasn't on the list, and you'll see on the bottom of the chart there that it was added last month, February 2024. So it's easy peasy. You just
Yeah.
connect with Fred, and he
I totally
gets on it.
forgot about that. There's our own facility up there.
Once, you can forget about the Family Resource Center once, no kidding, right?
Yeah, so just let them know if there's an organization.
Yeah, yeah.
That you can contact.
Yeah, especially down
Easy.
that area.
We just want to get on with doing the research that's required to determine, you might be willing, but it's no good anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
You may wish to contact one of these, they're a nonprofit organization. I think they would probably be interested if there was some sort of funding associated with it, as Andre mentioned for the East Chester Rec or any community center. I think that may be the.
Well, I think whatever upgrades are required, we would be prepared to do that.
Yeah, they just did a big expansion, so their water system's probably pretty good.
Well, they had to put in a new drill well for that facility, which is fine, but they seem to have a lot of water in that particular area.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good thing.
So this is just an update, we wanted to continue on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Oh, are we gonna try to get a staff report, or is that happening for on the land use? round?
Yes, around, yeah,
Okay.
that's not. I didn't hear anybody say that they didn't want to do it. Okay, 9.3, draft letter province regarding coastal action.
Beautiful letter.
Yeah, so this is just the draft letter that council discussed last week regarding the coastal action and the coastal protection act. So a draft letter to send off to them.
Yeah.
The only one other thing is that you did a nice comprehensive letter, Alan. But maybe.
I wrote it immediately after we had the discussion.
But maybe we could just mention somehow that, on, I don't know how to word it, but in some way, the province's position is that it's not, we don't require that it be regulated. We're gonna leave it to homeowners to sort of figure it out. But the next breath explains that they're gonna be working with municipalities so that they can provide regulation. And it just it seems to be in conflict with itself, their messaging.
Okay, I can add
We can reword it a little bit.
Yeah, because I don't know why.
Mostly, we're not entirely happy with you for just passing the buck to us. So we'll send it with a slight amendment? Yeah. I'll sign it.
Is there any, I don't know, I guess it's too early, but for it, obviously the municipality is gonna get pushed to do this in some way. And there's a provincial, they have the report that Andre spoke about, that they were gonna implement for the province. Is there any talk amongst any municipalities to look at that and say, we'll do that as municipalities over the whole municipality, over the whole province? Is there any discussion of that that you guys heard?
Well, so the discussion with the municipalities was looking towards the Coastal Protection Act. And for the province to take the lead. I don't know that NSFM would take that position, so if it was to happen, it would be a regional basis, right?
Well,
So a group of municipalities may get together and decide to do that. Modal's doing some stuff right now.
I see that.
But no, I'm not aware of any.
What we're saying, province, you just dropped it, but that's.
Well, yeah, and we'll all implement the same plan as municipalities.
No, that's the problem.
They did take that tool that was developed to determine the setbacks, and they sort of dumbed it down so that homeowners, they made it on a website so that homeowners can answer some generic questions like, what's the type of geology? Are you sandy? Are you clayey? Or you're rocky or whatever? And you put in a bunch of stuff, and then it would just sort of give some vague answer at the end, you probably should stay back from the water, or it seems okay. It's not, it doesn't give, the original tool actually said you have to be 37 meters from the water or whatever. There wasn't there was a line that said don't go any closer. But the new one, it just kind of vague. It's you probably might want to think that a bit over kind of thing.
Yeah.
The indication we have from the province is just that the tool would be integrated into their online mapping in a simplified version, so it might ask the homeowner, what's the soil like, and it wouldn't necessarily say, what's the soil like, it would say, can you dig into your soil, is it,
Is it soft or
yeah,
hard?
is it soft or hard, or is it,
Did
do
you
you
hit
need a
a rock?
knife to cut it, like, it's a vague,
And then after that, after the little questionnaire, then it sort of like gives like, it doesn't tell you like a distance, it's just like,
You might need
Make up
yeah, you
to
might want to,
consider.
you could be prone to flooding there or
Yeah.
something, and then that's it. It doesn't really say be this far away.
But that tool that was developed said that. That's what I'm getting
Yes.
at. Well, that's what I'm getting at, not the dumbed down version, the original version.
yeah, to my knowledge, they don't have any intention to release that, that was the indication we got from staff.
Okay.
Just a valid point, before we move forward with anything locally, I think we need to have a discussion, do we want to do it regionally before we go? I think it's a good discussion to have, rather than not to go and do something. We need to know how council feels, I think, before we go. And typically, we have the warden that need to do it regionally.
Yeah.
We should look at, do we want to have that discussion, or we want to do it on our own?
Well, we're trying to tell the province they
don't want
break
to.
down.
Andre? Well, I do, I think it's important to have. No, it's not much good to spend a whole lot of time doing the research. If we don't want to do it, if we want to say, well, okay, right off the bat, let's go down that road, if not.
I agree with
Well, that's all part of this big,
Yeah.
big project.
I know, but we know the direction we want to go.
Yeah, so I think it'll be further discussion with probably the planning advisory committee, I think has it on their agenda to talk about it. And so I think we'll have to bring it back to council in some form, whether it's a workshop or whether it's a report to committee of the whole, we'll have to do something like that to try and determine.
I just want to bring it up.
Is this gonna be, I don't see a CC there, but CC to either NSFM and each municipal unit in Nova Scotia, or?
That was going to be one of my
Yeah,
questions, did you want us to
Of course we
CC this NSFM and the MLA?
Yes.
Absolutely,
And
100%,
they should all know that we're not entirely happy.
100%.
Drop the gun. Okay. Okay, 10.1. Celebration of 25th anniversary Canada's first Geo Cafe and request to preserve this place.
I'm not sure what they're asking.
Well, they want to protect it, so that they have to move to 103 and move to 103 to protect the site, is what it means.
Just exactly what is the site?
Yeah, so just the monument in the Graves Island, I'm not sure exactly where the site is in that area. It's the first site in the country, I guess. And they want it considered as a protected site.
So monument.
Protected from the impact of the Highway 10320.
And they want it protected.
I recommend we refer this to our Heritage Advisory Committee.
I don't even remember ever seeing it, but I mean.
I want to get a chance when I get the floor.
Yeah. I don't really know what it is and what it represents.
I do, and I don't think we should do it, but I think we should refer it to our Heritage Advisory Committee.
Okay, well, let's do that.
See what they think about it and bring it back to us.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for.
Make a motion.
I just did.
Okay, sorry. Discussion, or second, discussion? All those in favor? Okay, we're on to 11.2. Request for decision prepared by Community Development Recreation Budget Grant Application. Okay, 11.2, let me see, okay. Got so many of them there.
Morning, everyone. So we have 3 different grants that we're looking at today, or 2 for sure, maybe the 3rd one. The first one on the agenda is the budgeted grant. And so The intent of having these discussions here today is that any decisions that council make today will feed into our overall budget process. So I guess you're kind of slowly, Tim was in last week talking about capital budget a little bit, so that's just another portion of what will form your kind of final budget when we get into later into April. So the budgeted grants are essentially the grants that the municipality, that council gives out to groups on an annual basis. And last year when we had a discussion on this topic, council recommended that we produce some guidelines. So we did not have guidelines prior to this year, and so we created that and we came back to council and those were that was approved. And so we now have a process whereby if there are groups in the community that would like consideration to be added to our annual budgeted grants, that we have a process which they follow, so essentially, which is submitting a proposal, and we've kind of outlined the content of what that proposal needed to include. And so this year, for the upcoming fiscal year, we have two groups that have submitted proposals. One is the Chester Playhouse, and the second is the New Rocks Trail Society. And of course, both of these groups, in addition to submitting the proposals, they both of them came in not too many weeks ago, and with their submissions and to do kind of in-person proposal. And as well, if you hadn't noticed already, there's representatives from both of those groups are in the audience today. If there did happen to be any questions that council had that that either I wasn't able to answer or that wasn't included in the proposals. So just by way of some additional background, so on page 2, I did provide the list of the annual budgeted grants that we had for the current fiscal year, just as a point of reference. So that list is there. And also, there was one change that council made to this list last year that I just wanted to point out, and that was the three organizations. So the New Ross Family Resource Center, the Chester Area Family Resource Center, and through the years, Learning Center, both, all three of those council asked to have them removed from the list, as some things have changed in terms of provincial funding for daycares and those things. So so those groups were given notice last year following that council direction. So those have been removed. They will not be included in the list for the upcoming year. So then I also provided a list of, it's basically an updated list of what the proposed grants may look like this year. So not included on that list were the two today. So I left that up for council to kind of make that decision on. If you're going to approve one or both those groups, and if so, an amount for one or both of those. And the only other outstanding piece on here that I just flagged for you is that the Church Memorial Park. So right now, council has an agreement with Church Memorial Park that the annual contribution towards that organization is $75,000. And if council recalls that there was a request last year to increase that amount by $60,000 for a total of $135,000. And council approved that last year, and there has been some indication that a similar request is going to come in this year. So I don't have that for sure, but I just wanted to flag that if that request comes in, then that'll be another consideration as far as this budget goes.
So if I could elaborate just a little bit.
Sure.
It would be likely because the curling rink, the beams in the curling rink need to be replaced or fixed as soon as possible because they have a monitoring system on them, and it's come back with some red flags that it needs to be replaced. They're monitoring, it's still safe, but it's they're recommending that they be replaced as soon as possible and not let it go.
The same problem they had at the hockey rink?
Yes.
Same issue?
And that's what mainly they're working on.
But chances are we'll see it.
So
Yeah,
just so as a placeholder, would you like me to put that 135 in there, just
No.
or 75, or what would you like?
I
me to
haven't
do?
heard, I'd like to hear from the group actually, because again, none of these, because we had a chat, I guess, just a statement or two in the kitchen earlier, and none of these, maybe they all need to be reviewed, right? Because again, it comes back to core services again. So once we get into the discussion regarding the two today, that could open up the entire discussion for all of those again, because unless, which ones, Chad, just remind me, is it just simply the Church Memorial Park that we have the formal agreement with, or do we have others that have formal agreements?
So currently Hard, I
We have
would
an
think
agreement
because
with
we
the
thought, we
okay.
did, we have an agreement with the
Okay.
province, so Hard Lake and Hard,
Yeah.
and Church of Work would be the two that we have agreed.
Okay,
about.
thank you. Thank you for that.
So, I mean, whatever we do today, you're just using it for budget purposes, to put in the budget. We have not approved the budget yet, so anything can change once that comes.
Correct.
Depending
That's,
on
yeah.
what the tax rate is, and this and that, and everything else.
Yeah, no, I was fully prepared to let my group know that they may be out here again, and would certainly have respect for any discussion that comes to this table today and next time, I would invite them to be here and be present for that discussion, just like we did with the Chester Arts Center last year.
So Chad is just looking to know,
Yep.
this is what I'm putting in the budget. Whether you approve the budget at the end of the day,
Right, and we know that there's always lots of discussion around grants, so the thought was to take some time on today's meeting to discuss them instead of getting way down in the middle of.
so just on the guidelines we've established, do you believe that Chester Playhouse and New Ross Trail Society meet those guidelines?
Yes, I did.
We didn't put any cap on new applicants' amounts.
Well, I mean, at some point in time, we have to establish a budget. How much are we gonna spend on this stuff? Where's the money come from? Are we gonna lower the amounts that we're giving for other types of things, or are we not? I mean, there's all of that.
100%.
But that's a budget discussion that we have to have.
Yeah.
But I guess,
Question?
Yeah.
Chad, on the first group of 12, are those ones that you are actually recommending at this point? Have we?
they're existing.
Yeah, but have they made, are they existing as a
They're a budget item.
budget item every year?
Sorry, I think you might be on the capital grant, there was a list of 12 was the capital
Yeah.
grant, so that is not the one that's being
Okay,
discussed.
so you're doing 11.2 before.
That's been moved to the
before
end.
before you- So the one we moved to the end is 11.1?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
I'll put it at the end. I have your number. Sorry,
That's okay.
I just took it in order.
confusing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch to 11.2. Sorry about that, Chad. Yeah, I know what these are. Yeah. So are we discussing the amount? We're not.
We're discussing whether we're gonna add Chester Playhouse and New Ross Trail Society to the list.
And can we, do you want a motion that we add them and then discuss the amount, or how do you want to
Well,
do
we
it?
should have the amounts discussed before we bother with the motion, so that Chad knows what to put in the budget, and then when they bring the budget back to us, we'll decide whether or not we can afford it or we can't.
Is the arts part of this discussion or not? Because
That's
to
done.
me, we need
No.
it.
Now,
Okay, we are 25, I understand that, but are we gonna come up with a budget for that sector, or to me, I keep hearing we're gonna be forecast, and we're gonna look at that, and to me, before I wanna approve another one for a line item, I want to add that discussion on, and we're gonna put a budget, and then we get some sectors, we each get a portion of that budget. That's where I thought we were going.
Well, that's where we just appointed that committee this morning.
That's right, so that work hasn't, so I don't think we would have that for this budget, that
No.
would perhaps be as the arts and culture strategy progresses this year and that work gets done, and perhaps there would be a recommendation from that, but at this point in time for the upcoming fiscal year, I'd say we do not have the luxury of that information for this year.
Oh, we've got 125, and we'll have another request for 50.
That's correct.
And I mean, I think we're gonna set a budget, and I'm not sure if it's gonna be 100 or 50 there, so I don't want to approve of 50 until, at this point, at least me, I.
We just want to know if we want to add them to the
I don't
list.
have a
Well, that was,
problem.
that was my question. Do we make a motion, add them to the list first, and then we can discuss the amount? We're not going to add them to the list. It's-
I guess there's a couple things. We can have a discussion and tell Chad, yeah, we're gonna add the Chester Playhouse, but we're only gonna add it 25,000. We can say that. But at the end of the day, we haven't approved a budget yet. So,
I mean, theoretically, you could cut out all grants in the budget.
That's right,
that's right,
exactly.
because we may
That's-
find
yep.
that we don't want to raise the taxes, we want to,
Yeah.
something has to go.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I know we got to make choices. It's-
Yeah, we have to make
Rubber
choices
hits the road, for sure.
So,
Well, let's just try to break this down into bite-sized pieces here.
yeah.
So our first question is, are there groups that annually we would give something to for operational requirements that we would like if they come every year, forget about budgeted, like as a line item, but if they came every year and asked for somebody to help them operate, would we do it because it aligns with our mandate and something that's important to the community and that community would want them to support? If the answer is yes, then we can move on to step two, which is, okay, well, then how much money do you think we would automatically just give you, even if you ask or don't ask, because it's important to the community? You know, these two groups, to me, probably satisfy that criteria, that it is important enough that if they came every year and asked for some amount of money, we probably would give it to them because
They meet the requirements.
because it's important. And if we'd have the same Facebook blow up, if tomorrow they said that the lighthouse was gonna go away, people would go crazy because it's important. You know, if there was no trails out in New Ross, well, we have that same.
Yeah, to me,
hatred.
we add them to the
So-
list.
Yeah, so that's the question. Is it important enough that we would, if they came every year, then we would probably give them money regardless? I want a sincere answer on that. If the answer is yes, then probably we should budget them so that we don't have to talk about it every year.
And that's sort of what our grants are for. Everybody can apply for a grant, and we have,
X number of dollars, that's the issue. we have to
But it makes
resolve.
it hard when they can't plan because they don't know. Every year they're gonna come in and beg. We have every intention to give it to them every year because it's important to us, but we won't tell them until the last gun's fired. Well, that's hard for those organizations to run that way, you know? You know, it'd be nice to know that they can count on it, you know, that was the Art Center's argument, is like, it's important to the community, it's gaining traction. You know, we just wanna know that you're gonna do it. You think you will, but they wanted to know. And finally we said, yeah, okay, we will.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think now the lighthouse is coming in, they're saying the kind of thing, like, hey, you know, you've always indicated it's important, every time we've asked you for money, you give it to us. But could you just tell us up front? That's a reasonable ask, I think.
It's similar to the reasoning around the trails.
Sure.
And if you remember, when we had the two sessions, which I missed the second one because of COVID, and you went ahead with it. We had a session in July, and we had a session in September, and Gord was here, and he presented, if I remember. Well, he didn't make the first one because of his son, but the reasoning around adding and the consideration to add to the council grant suite of programs, a trails program, a trails grant, was for just that, was for planning and looking ahead, linking it back to our core services and all that, but it was around the planning. So again, the rec staff pointed that out to us when we were considering adding a trails grant to the stream of grants, planning, looking ahead.
Sure, I guess that's what I'm trying to distill this down to. Like, are there groups that we would give money to every year if they came?
I look at this a bit, and it's a grant versus on, but we give grants and we have a huge number, we give away grants every year.
Sure.
So if we start doing the line items, what we're gonna do, are we reducing the grant amount? Because really, it's hurt, not hurting. It's taken from all of our community centers. Our community centers, everyone does, they're important. And they all, if we're gonna do later, fight over a pool limit, right? So if we're guaranteeing certain ones money and then the rest of them are gonna fight and argue, like you said earlier, what's what they do? We're gonna sit early, and we're gonna sell, and we're gonna go over this budget and try to make it as fair as we can for our community. And we all wanna support all of our communities and all of our centers and our trails and arts and all of them. But if we start doing line items for this and line items for that, they're guaranteed the money. And we're in a budget, and the rest of these people, I see it one versus the other, and I'm struggling with it. I really am, but once we set this, you know, I think that Aspen Trust is an important part of this valley, not just my community. So did they put in for a line item? I don't know the answer. The East Chester one here, I mean, they serve a lot more than just there. People in Chester, Harvard, we all go there. They're important. So are we going to say, well, this one's more important? Because we're giving them money every year, we're guaranteeing it. We're going to sit there and fight for $10,000. That's what our struggle with over it.
Tina?
Thank you. So there's a couple of things. Except for the organizations, the groups in terms of the budget grants that we may or may not have on our list going forward, except for the ones that we have formal agreements with, I guess they're all on the table. They'd all be on the table.
As long as they meet the requirements they are at this moment in time.
And I'm also suggesting that they're on the table to be taken off, if that's the case. If that's the case, because we did take 3 off last year because we had our reasoning around it. I actually didn't vote for it because of the daycare piece and the envelope of indicating that all 3 resource centers, but that's another story. That's last year or 2 years ago. But again, so if that's the case, we need to revisit that entire list of what constitutes a budgeted grant. It's not a given that it's on there every year, except for the ones that have a formal agreement. Now, part 2 of what I want to say here.
Is next after you.
Certainly. And part 2 is, when Chester Art Center came in last year, we gave direction, requested Chad to go away, if you would, and come back with what he just went over, the annual budget grant guidelines. And we've all had them since he brought it in draft form, and we've had it a few more times after that. So right there are 2 scenarios when organizations are supported through budgeted grants. And the reason I'm saying this, Floyd, is because you just referenced community centers and everything else that comes in under operating, like festivals and events. We've asked Chad, and he came back, and we agreed with this. 2 scenarios when organizations are supported through budgeted grants. They can come in under operating, they can come in under recreation, they can come in under whatever they want to come in under. But through budgeted grants, the section that we're on now, the organization has a formal agreement with the municipality or has a commitment through a motion of council. Like I think the New Ross Regional Development Society, the 490, that's a commitment through a motion of council. That's a motion of council. Before my time, when Councillor Scott was sitting here, that motion was made. It's on the books. Number 2 scenario would be the organization provides a core public service that is consistent with the responsibilities and or directly significantly supports the strategic priorities of the municipality. So again, I'll open up our strategic plan, and there are 8 strategic priority areas. So again, those are documents and references that we have. If we don't want any of that, we just throw it out and don't even, that'll take a few workshops off my list if we're not going to do strategic planning again, if we're not going to follow it. Sir, thank you.
Derek?
Just a question. For the capital budget, we have a cap.
Yes.
Do we have a cap for operational grants at this point?
I think we have to establish one.
Oh, we
That's
have-
the problem.
I think that's
We
what.
don't have.
Right?
I think we gotta take a look at all of our
All of
grant
them.
programs and say, where's the money coming from? And how much is
Yep.
gonna be in this pot, how much is gonna be in that pot?
Good.
But right now, we do not have a max.
Great.
No.
Correct.
Just for clarification, Ted, if we make them line item, whatever, are they still eligible for grant?
Not for other.
No.
Except district, I think.
Well,
Yes.
but not for rec, or this or that, or no.
Larry Grant?
No, for not other. Oh.
Yeah, so capital is separate, absolutely. So that was a decision when we talked about the capital that they are eligible for capital. Yes.
All I wanted to say is that there are certain facilities groups in our municipality who we know are unique and important, and we're gonna support, like the arena. We got one, it's important, it's used by everybody. You know, there are other facilities like that are easy to point to. And that's what this is for. That's the idea behind this, is that it's unique and important and lines up with what our mandate.
Providing a service that we need to
Yeah,
provide.
like, we're in the recreation business.
Right.
You know, we're in the wellness business here. We keep making our residents well, keep them well. You know, and that extends to art and other things too, of course. So that's why these guys are here, because, you know, it sort of lines up. You know, whether we give them $50,000 or $20,000 or whatever it is, I don't know the answer to that. Honestly, that's going to be a raging debate, I think. Because as Floyd and Alan rightly said, you know, we only have so much money, and that which is left, then if you're not lucky enough to be deemed sort of core to our, you know, to our offerings here as a municipality, then you have to fight over the remainder. And that's a trick. So, you know, we don't want to diminish it so low that there's not much left for a place like the Eastchester Recreation Association or the District 1 Community Center or the Lions Club at Hubbard's or whatever, you know. And they're all super important too, and there's people from our communities there in those facilities every week. So, you know, can we answer number one question? Are these organizations here that important that if they came every year, we would give them something? Yes or no? I mean, if they would, that's fine. Then if they came and they asked us every year, how much do you think we would give them every year if they just asked?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah, and that's another separate, that's next question number two.
Yeah.
But if the answer to number one is no,
They
then
meet the
you take off the
requirements
list
of
right
grants,
there.
as we
I would say
established.
the answer to the first question is yes.
Well, it depends on their need. Like, if you look
And
at
the
these,
amount.
if you look at these two as an example, and they're both good organizations. The Playhouse has a total budget of 630,000 and asking for 50. And we can go through all the groups on this. These are the lists.
will.
Trail Society has an operational budget of 24,000 and asking for 13, which is about 50% of the budget. And the Playhouse, it's very small percentage. So I think we need to look at those numbers as well. And we have to see each organization, I think we need to see their total budget.
What they base that figure on, everything.
Yeah.
All that. It all goes into the discussion. And I certainly haven't discussed this with the New Ross Trail Society, but another solution for the New Ross Trail Society would be in the fact that this municipality is in the business of trails and open spaces. I think it's public on Facebook that we are having positive discussions with organizations right now around a piece of property in the village. Yeah, right? Those are discussions because we're in the business of public open space and protecting and ensuring that the residents, and again, I won't go into again, I won't go into the open space document for our our open space document and the statements in there and so on. But a solution, another scenario might be the fact that the municipality actually does, if you will, takes over the role of the New Ross Trail. Again, I haven't had this discussion with the Trails Group, but there's that I could put on the table that the municipality actually gets in the business of the New Ross Trails. The memorandum of understanding that we have, the New Ross Trail Society has with the landowners right now, is 90 days, 90 days out clause. That's a similar MOU, out clause, well, a bit different. The MOU that the municipality has with Maybach, with the parking lot, which I have all that information here once we get into the nitty gritty of how much we spend on parks and trails and all that here. They have an MOU with Maybach with that property. And I know that the New Ross Trails would probably would pass that over to the municipality if they wanted to take that on as part of their open space and parks and trails and everything that they're involving themselves with, from Council Rock to potentially being involved in the village here with that property, or maybe not, and so on. So there's that too. And we just don't even need to talk about it.
Well, to me, these people meet the criteria that we established, so therefore they're on the list. The big question for me is, how much money are we going to put in this pot? How much money are we going to put into all of the other pots for grants? And that may limit the amounts that they get, but it doesn't make them ineligible unless we change our policy.
Just to add on to that, Alan, in some of our other grants, we have set a set amount.
Of course we
right?
do,
So
and they
like our
compete for it.
operating grants are 33,000, our district grants are 70,000. So the budget grants are different in that we have never created kind of a ceiling
At some
for
point,
that.
we have
So
to have that discussion.
so that could be perhaps part of this discussion and coming up with that number is, you know, what is the overall amount that the
We're
council
prepared to
is
spend.
comfortable with? And similarly, with the capital grant, so that is a little bit different because it comes out of a reserve.
Yeah.
But we know that we have a threshold in the reserve that you would like to retain. And so with that grant, you know, that's 275,000 is the annual amount that you would like to kind of cap off. So, so that absolutely,
Like, you know, okay, this particular pot is gone to gravel. And quite frankly, there are other people who are eligible who just haven't applied yet. And at some stage of the
They're
game,
qualified.
we're gonna have to determine
Yeah.
where does that money come from? And does that reduce the
core
grants that we
services.
give to other organizations? Does it not? Does it take out of the reserves and we change the policy on the reserves, or do we not? We have to make those decisions.
Well, presumably, these groups would have been groups that we would have been giving money to annually from the other.
But they would have been competing for the funds.
Right,
So
so it'd be
therefore,
very interesting to look at annually how much we had been giving up till this point. You know, if, for example, we're giving the Playhouse whatever, these are fictitious numbers, I don't know. But if we're giving them 25, 20, 17 annually, just kind of bumped around there, and then suddenly it's like going forward, we're gonna do 50. It's like, well, wait a minute, why suddenly now that it's a line item, are we doubling our contribution or whatever? Like, so I'd love to have some historical information about what we actually had been providing, you know, just, you know, because it's important that the idea of budgeted grants is that we know we're gonna give to this group because we always give to the group. Like Park, we have an agreement, we give $2,000 a year, we don't need to talk about it because that's what we do. And so that's why it's in the budgeted thing. And so I think that would be a useful metric to give it, to ground us a bit. Because in theory, then all we're doing is shifting the money over. And we should we're creating a vacuum where we took that money from.
no, I agree with you. We need that information. Like, adding these two people to this list doesn't mean anything to me. They're eligible based on the criteria we set. It's just what budget are we going to establish overall for grants, and where's the money coming from?
And I do like Councillor Wells, his reference to, you know, how did the Playhouse and how did the Trail Society arrive at those figures of what they are
Yes,
requesting of us?
What's the percentage? Are we going to establish
exactly.
the percentage?
Yeah, exactly. And also, I had a question when I was driving out today, and that's around, and I'm gonna zero in on Community Wheels, because it came to me. So Community Wheels, and again, it's not on the list necessarily. We're revisiting everything as far as I'm concerned now. It's open because it's the only fair thing to do. So Community Wheels, so their budget, their request to us is 11.5. I apologize if I've seen it and I don't remember. I don't know what their annual budget is. What was their annual budget last year? What was their annual budget the year before? What's it this year? Last year in the summer, the province announced funding for the community transportation CTAPs, whatever they are, community active transportation programs or something. And I think that might have been around 20,000 for Community Wheels. So if they had a budget and submitted to us 11.5, then suddenly they get 20 in the summer. I don't understand, like, I don't know what that means. Does that mean that they have a surplus and they don't ask for the same amount? Like, I'm just concerned about that because I don't know where that lands. And so why is it always a given? Does anybody else know what the budget is for Community Wheels?
no, I don't know right off. I know some of the other ones.
And I'm only picking on them because it's easy. I love Community Wheels. I don't think anyone would disagree with that because I've taken it myself and promoted it as much as I can. But Community Wheels, using that as an example, they have staff. So when I look at the two on there now, or we can look at all of them, New Ross Trail Society doesn't have staff. We're not paying somebody. We could put that in there. We could say somebody's donating their time and it costs them $25,000 in kind. We could put that in the budget if you want, because there's a lot of in kind in all of those budgets. I can guarantee that. So there's also there's no facility. So I get it. The Playhouse, the Chester Arts Center last year had facilities. The Senior Safety Partnership, they don't have a facility. They're co-located with the Town of Bridgewater Police Department. So there's a lot of moving targets here, a lot of moving pieces. And, you know, maybe the Trail Society, if once we get to budget, I can go back to them and I can say, and I think that actually when Marty and Diane were here at the table last time, I think Marty might have referenced the administrative and some of these other things. So they can go back and they can put a dollar figure to all that in kind if you want, but they put in the budget item that they put in for 13,250 was based on information that they knew for actual costs for again, operating and maintaining. So again, this is a really great hearty discussion that's only just started.
Did you put the slide up for the preliminary list for 24, 25? Thank you. We did eliminate 3 of those.
Yes. Yes, because the
Yeah.
province changed the way they funded. Okay.
So this one is perhaps more relevant. And Church Memorial Park is not going to stay at 75, we know that.
Well.
No, not necessarily.
We
They
just
got,
gave them $100,000 to do
Yeah,
a study, so.
not
you know,
necessarily.
Okay, I thought,
It all comes into play.
Yeah.
I just,
You know, the outcome to that would, the facility would need to shut down and then we'd have to be looking at that.
Well,
Oh, I know. It's
so it's also important. It's important to the entirety of the municipality. And I think that, again, opening the discussion last time,
I think we need a workshop on budgets, to be honest with you.
well, again, I want to ensure that the workshop is open to the community that's here represented, at least in terms of, I can't speak for all facilities and all organizations, but I know that the New Ross Trails is very interested in council's deliberation around budgets and grants. And now look to my municipal solicitor. I believe that any session, if there's an agenda, if there's an order of business, because I did some research, they're open to the public.
Generally speaking,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
I'm just saying that it's a bigger issue. As far as I'm concerned, adding these 2 people to the list is a non-issue because they meet the criteria, so there's no reason not to. The question is, how much money are we going to spend on community organizations? In which pot do we put this much? Which pot do we put that much? And whatever.
you need a motion to add them to the list. That's
Well, that's where I think we are. I
Well,
mean,
that's what I suggested
The rest
half an
of it's
hour ago.
all a much larger discussion.
Make the motion.
So I make the motion that we add those 2 organizations to our list with the amount to be given to be determined with the bigger budget deliberation.
Discussion. All of,
I just like to say for the record that I mean, I support all the organizations, but whether we give the money to the Trail Society out of a line item or whatever, I think from the presentation that they did to me, it's really no brainer because, you know, we have groups that come and these guys have done a lot of work. And as Tina said, if they wanted to put that in the budget, if you're using percentages. And I just think it's important to the community. I think it's important for the municipality. We don't know where the trails are gonna go in 10 years. I mean, they could connect any roads. We don't know that. I just think to me, wherever the funding comes from, I support it 100%. I just like to say that.
It's just that we gotta get our heads around it, ultimately, how much we're spending on this stuff.
Yeah, I think everyone here at the table supports all of these organizations, certainly the trails. It's just how much money do we put in the pot? I think that's a big.
How they demonstrated the need.
Yeah.
What's it based on?
Yeah.
Like the percentages of the overall budget. Again, this is great. You know what? I'm excited that we're opening up that discussion around all of our line items.
People only say that, nobody else.
Well, it has to be. It has to be unless there's a real reason,
Only if you, all of us decide.
unless there's a real reason, because it's unfair.
No,
And we're spending municipal tax dollars.
I'm sorry, we already decided on this list, that's why. it's
No, we did not.
Well, as soon as people are done discussing, I'm gonna call.
Only you have said we're going back to that list, nobody else, just let's be clear.
Clear.
Any further discussion on the motion to add these 2 people to the list? All those in favor? Oh, motion's carried.
So what I will do is whether it's a workshop format or part of the,
Well, I think, like,
Deliberations
you know,
will
we've
include-
already talked about this, but this is all gonna be part of the same,
Yes.
our discussion. How much money are we spending?
so what I'll do is we'll pull that together. It's like I say, if it's a workshop or the budget deliberations, and we'll have all of the grants, so you have a full picture. And if we want to, get into setting some limits, whether for annual grants or adjusting the other grants as well, then we can look at them all together.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but it seems to me that we have to do something to establish how much money are we gonna spend and which pots is it all.
So are we
Absolutely.
moving 11.1?
But as
Not even
far
on
as
this
I'm
agenda.
concerned, we should move
Yeah,
11.1. We need to have that
Completely
kind of
off.
discussion. If we
Yeah.
can sit and argue about all these grants and until we know how much money we're spending.
I drank 300 coffees this morning preparing for this meeting.
Well, you just got rid of a couple of them now. Well, I just think it's such a broad range
You're
of
welcome.
discussion that needs a lot more information. Like we just said, what are your operating budgets and all this kind of stuff, your calendar, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're taking a short break. You guys can stay here if you want.